The story opens in the land of Goshen with a Hebrew woman named Jochebed, the wife of a slave named Amram. Acting on God's guidance, she places her baby inside a woven basket and sets him afloat on the Nile, trusting that God will protect his life. At that time, Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, has ordered his soldiers to hunt down and kill every newborn Hebrew boy. He is terrified after dreaming that his power will one day be destroyed by a young man born from the Israelites he has enslaved. Out of fear, he creates a cruel law meant to stop the Hebrew people from growing strong enough to rise against him. But God has other plans for this child. One day in the royal palace, Princess Bithiah, Pharaoh's own sister, is being comforted by her attendants. She is grieving the loss of her husband and still carrying the sadness of that pain. While spending time by the edge of the Nile, she suddenly notices a small basket drifting along the river. Curious, she opens it and is shocked to find a baby inside. The moment her attendants ask what she has discovered, Bithiah immediately sends them away. She understands that if Pharaoh finds out she has taken in a Hebrew baby boy, he will have the child killed at once. Still, Bithiah decides to save him. Not far away, Miriam, who has been watching over the basket at her mother's request, is overjoyed to see that her baby brother has been found by someone from the royal family. After realizing the basket holds a helpless infant, Bithiah's loyal servant, Memnet, worries about what will happen if Pharaoh learns the truth. But Bithiah believes the baby has come into her life for a reason. She sees him as an answer to her long-standing prayer for a son, the child she never had with her late husband. She then orders Memnet to swear absolute secrecy about the baby's existence. Because he was found floating on the river, Bithiah gives him the name Moses. And this is where it begins. This is the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments. As time passes, Moses grows into a strong and noble prince. He is raised alongside Pharaoh's son, the crown prince Ramses. But Ramses cannot hide his jealousy, especially because Pharaoh clearly shows more affection toward Moses, even though Moses is only his nephew. That jealousy only grows stronger when Ramses realizes that his sister, Princess Nefertiti, is more drawn to Moses than to him. This becomes even more painful because Nefertiti is expected to marry Ramses once he inherits the throne. Ramses shares his father's cruelty and pride, while Moses grows into the exact opposite, wise, compassionate, and fair. Unlike the rest of the royal family, Moses does not ignore the suffering of the slaves and often steps in to help those who are denied justice under Pharaoh's rule. One example comes during the construction of massive temples and statues built to glorify Pharaoh. While Moses is overseeing the project, a Hebrew slave woman suddenly approaches him and begs for help. She asks him to free her boyfriend, Joshua. Joshua is captured by Pharaoh's soldiers after trying to save a middle-aged woman who becomes trapped while working on a massive statue. Without hesitation, Prince Moses rushes to the scene. Seeing the woman in danger, he immediately steps in and saves her, unaware that the woman he just helped is actually his biological mother. Not stopping there, Moses orders the soldiers to release Joshua, who admits he acted recklessly only to help the same woman. Moved by Moses' kindness, Joshua takes a risk and reveals something important. He explains that the workers have been slowing down because they were recently given food by Pharaoh. Hearing this, Moses becomes furious. He orders the slaves to take grain supplies from the temple so they can continue working properly. This decision quickly becomes an opportunity for Prince Ramses, who reports Moses to Pharaoh for breaking royal law. Pharaoh decides to investigate the situation himself, especially after Ramses continues to fuel his suspicion by claiming that the slaves are praising Moses and chanting his name. This only deepens Pharaoh's fear that Moses might one day turn against him. When Pharaoh arrives, he questions Moses about his decision to take food from the temple. Ramses keeps pushing the accusation, trying to convince his father that Moses has caused financial harm to the kingdom. But Moses remains calm and explains his reasoning. He shows the progress of the construction projects under his leadership and argues that feeding the workers actually speeds up the work. Without food, the workers grow weak and everything slows down. He points out that delaying the project would cost the kingdom even more. Workers would die from exhaustion, and the kingdom would still need to spend resources to maintain the soldiers guarding them. Pharaoh is left stunned by Moses' logic. He is clearly impressed by his intelligence and insight. In fact, he ends up accusing Ramses of falsely blaming his own brother. Seeing how much Pharaoh favors Moses, a foreman named Baca warns Ramses that Moses could one day take the throne from him. But Ramses remains confident and insists that he will never allow that to happen. He believes that the great city built under Moses' command will ultimately bring glory to his own name, and that Princess Nefertiti, the woman Moses loves, will one day become his wife. Then one day, everything begins to change. A servant of Princess Bithiah, who has long kept Moses' secret, finally breaks her oath. She reveals the truth to Nefertiti that Moses is not Pharaoh's true blood, but the child of a Hebrew woman named Jochebed, and that Bithiah rescued him from the Nile as a baby. The revelation shocks Nefertiti, but her love for Moses is stronger than the truth. Instead of exposing him, she chooses to silence the secret forever. She kills the servant by pushing her from a balcony, ensuring that the truth stays buried.
Son he is. Ramesses is. Won't
Princess Nefertiti refuses to let Moses be cast out of the palace. She knows that if that happens, Pharaoh will force her to marry Prince Ramses, a man she has never truly loved. But everything begins to unravel when Moses enters her chamber and notices a piece of traditional Hebrew cloth. That small detail sparks suspicion, and he starts to feel that Nefertiti is hiding something from him. Pressed by Moses, Nefertiti finally breaks. She reveals the truth about what happened. She admits that she killed her servant, Memnet, after the woman confessed that Moses is not Pharaoh's blood, but the son of a Hebrew woman. The revelation leaves Moses shaken and confused. Determined to find the truth, he goes straight to Princess Bithiah, the woman who raised him. When he confronts her, Moses begins asking about a Hebrew woman named Jochebed. He pushes for answers, trying to uncover the secret that has been hidden from him his entire life. But Bithiah refuses to tell him the truth. She fears that if she does, she will lose the son she loves so deeply. With no clear answers, Moses warns her that he will uncover the truth on his own. Seeing his determination, Bithiah begins to panic. That very night, she orders a chariot to be prepared and sets out for Goshen. Her plan is to reach Jochebed's home first and convince the family to leave before Moses can find them. When she arrives, she urges Jochebed to abandon her home and leave immediately. She promises to provide for the family as long as Moses never learns the truth. But Jochebed refuses. She assures Bithiah that she has no intention of taking Moses away. Still driven by fear, Bithiah continues to insist, desperate to protect her place in Moses' life. Then in the middle of their argument, everything changes. Moses suddenly appears at the doorway. He has followed Bithiah and now stands face to face with the truth she tried so hard to hide. His presence throws Bithiah into panic, while Jochebed struggles to keep the secret intact. Holding back her tears in the overwhelming longing for her son, Jochebed initially denies being his mother. But when Moses asks her to swear it, she can no longer hold herself together. The bond of a mother proves too strong to deny. At last, she reveals the truth. Moses learns that he was born to a Hebrew slave, and in that moment, everything changes. Without hesitation, he embraces his mother and his siblings, Aaron and Miriam. He then makes a life-changing decision. Moses chooses to stay with his real family and live among his people, leaving behind the comfort and power of the palace. For Bithiah, the moment is heartbreaking. She watches the son she raised walk away, choosing a life of hardship with his birth family over the luxury she once gave him. In time, after choosing to live with his birth mother, Moses willingly lets go of all the luxury and power he once had in the palace. He chooses a life of hardship, living among his people as a slave, rather than watching them continue to suffer under Pharaoh's rule. His decision deeply affects Princess Nefertiti. She feels sympathy for him and calls him back to the palace, hoping to understand why he would walk away from everything he was given. Moses remains calm as he explains his choice. He has no desire to become a ruler who gains wealth from the suffering of others. To him, power and status are temporary. What truly matters is standing against injustice, oppression, and the cruelty that Pharaoh has imposed on his people. For Moses, living a simple life that helps others is far more meaningful. As he settles into life among the slaves, Moses begins to truly experience the pain of his people. Every day he witnesses their suffering, the harsh punishments, and even death for those who dare to resist. Then one day, he feels compelled to act. A Hebrew woman named Lilia is being taken by a foreman named Baca, who intends to abuse her. Before Moses arrives, Joshua has already tried to rescue her, but he is captured by Pharaoh's soldiers. When Moses steps in, Baca is confused as to why a former prince would risk everything for a slave. But Moses does not hesitate. To save Joshua and Lilia, he is forced to kill Baca. What he does not realize is that someone else has seen everything. Baca's assistant, Dastan, secretly witnesses the entire incident. The death of Baca, a trusted foreman of Pharaoh, sparks outrage. Prince Ramses immediately orders his soldiers to hunt down Joshua and Lilia. Meanwhile, Dastan seizes the opportunity to advance himself. He offers Ramses valuable information in exchange for being promoted to replace his former master. Ramses agrees. With that, Dastan reveals the truth. He tells Ramses that Moses is the one responsible for Baca's death. He also exposes an even bigger secret, that Moses is not truly the son of Princess Bithyia. Hearing this, Ramses is filled with satisfaction. To him, this is the perfect chance to remove Moses once and for all. He wastes no time and orders his soldiers to arrest Moses and throw him into prison, preparing to present the case before Pharaoh as proof that Moses has betrayed the throne all along. The next day, Prince Ramses wastes no time and reports everything to Pharaoh. At first, the king refuses to believe his son's claims, but his expression changes the moment Moses is brought before him. The truth begins to sink in, and the man he once loved like a son now stands before him as a stranger. Pharaoh is heartbroken and deeply disappointed. Princess Bithyia tries to defend Moses, but Pharaoh sees her actions as a betrayal. In his anger, he orders her to leave the palace. Pharaoh then calls Moses closer, demanding the truth directly from him. This time, Moses does not hide anything. He openly admits that he is not of royal blood, but the son of a Hebrew slave. That confession changes everything. Filled with disappointment, Pharaoh immediately declares Ramses as his rightful successor to the throne. He also arranges for Ramses to marry Princess Nefertiti, who can only watch in silence as Moses' fate is decided. Pharaoh leaves the punishment entirely in Ramses' hands. Without hesitation, Ramses chooses exile. Moses is sent away to a distant and unforgiving desert, a place where survival itself feels impossible. Ramses intends to let nature slowly destroy him. Moses is given nothing but a staff to guide his journey and a cloak to survive the cold nights. Beyond that, only a miracle can save him from the harsh wilderness of the desert. But once again, there is a greater plan at work. Through pain, hunger, and endless hardship, Moses is tested.
For a land unseen. Into the most
His strength and patience are pushed to their limits, until eventually he is guided to a small village called Midian. Midian is home to 7 women, the daughters of a village leader named Jethro. They live a simple life, tending their flocks near the valley of Mount Sinai. Moses first encounters them during a moment of trouble. A group of men begins harassing the women while they are out herding. The disturbance draws Moses in, and he steps in to protect them. That moment becomes the beginning of a new chapter in his life. Through this encounter, Moses meets Jethro and is welcomed into the village. With nowhere else to go, he accepts the offer to stay and begins working as a shepherd alongside the family. As time passes, Jethro offers Moses the chance to marry one of his daughters. Moses chooses the eldest, Zipporah. In the end, Moses builds a new life in Midian, far from the palace he once called home. He settles in the valley near Mount Sinai, starts a family, and is blessed with a son. One day, Moses is surprised by the arrival of Joshua, the same man he once saved from Pharaoh's soldiers. It turns out Joshua has been searching for him for a long time. He believes that Moses is the chosen one, the man God has promised to free the Israelites from slavery. But Moses refuses to accept that idea. He insists that he is not the person his people have been waiting for. Everything changes when he is led to climb Mount Sinai. There, for the first time, Moses encounters God and receives a divine calling. He is chosen to lead the Israelites out of Egypt and free them from Pharaoh's oppression. Once Joshua understands the truth, he offers to gather people and prepare for battle. But Moses stops him. He believes that the staff he carries as a shepherd will be the only weapon he needs to fulfill his mission. Not long after, Pharaoh passes away, and Ramses rises to power as the new king of Egypt. By his side stands Queen Nefertiti, now his wife. Under Ramses' rule, Egypt reaches the height of its glory. Massive monuments and towering statues are built to celebrate the greatness of his kingdom, including those in Karnak and Abu Simbel. Meanwhile, Moses, accompanied by his brother Aaron, returns to Egypt. He goes straight to Ramses' palace with one purpose: to demand the freedom of the Israelites. But the request is rejected without hesitation. Ramses questions who gave Moses the authority to make such a demand. Moses makes it clear that he has been sent by God to speak the truth and bring freedom to his people. He tries to show Ramses that God's power is far greater than any earthly king. Ramses responds with disbelief and mockery. He challenges Moses to prove the power of his God. To demonstrate this, Moses instructs Aaron to throw down his staff, and in an instant, it transforms into a snake. Even then, Ramses refuses to be convinced. He dismisses it as nothing more than a cheap trick. To prove his own power, he has his guards do the same, and their staffs also turn into snakes. With pride, Ramses tries to show that he can match what Moses claims comes from God. The challenges Moses faces only grow heavier. Not only is he dismissed and ridiculed, but he is also tested in another way. Queen Nefertiti summons him in secret. Using her charm, she tries to pull him back into his former life, offering to restore his status and power in the palace. But Moses stands firm. He makes it clear that he is no longer the man she once knew. His loyalty now belongs entirely to God. From that point on, Moses continues to warn King Ramses that God's wrath will fall upon Egypt if he refuses to free the slaves. But his warnings are ignored again and again. Ramses refuses to believe in God, even after witnessing multiple miracles. One of the most striking signs is when Moses' staff causes the Nile to turn into blood. Yet Ramses still dismisses it as nothing more than sorcery. Eventually, the consequences begin to unfold. A deadly plague spreads across Egypt, lasting for 7 days and nights. Moses once again urges Ramses to repent and seek forgiveness so his people can be spared. But Ramses remains stubborn. He proudly claims that his kingdom is protected by the gods represented in the massive statues he has built. That arrogance only brings greater punishment. Soon, a terrifying darkness covers the land. For 3 days and nights, the sky turns completely black. Fear spreads across the kingdom as cries of suffering echo everywhere. One by one, people begin to die, and the once mighty empire is thrown into chaos. Meanwhile, Moses gathers those who still believe in God. He reassures them that the plague will not harm those who remain faithful. Among those who choose to stand with him is Princess Bithiah, who leaves everything behind to follow him. Back in the palace, Ramses continues to act as if nothing is wrong. He treats the disaster as if it were just another passing illness. But his confidence begins to crumble when the darkness claims the life of his own son. Desperate and broken, Ramses turns to the very statues he once trusted. He places his child in their hands, hoping for a miracle. But nothing happens. Even Queen Nefertiti sees the truth, that these statues are nothing more than lifeless creations. With no answer from the gods he believed in, Ramses finally breaks. In his desperation, he calls for Moses. This time, he agrees to release the Israelites, but with one condition. He demands that Moses take the plague away along with them. Moses refuses that condition. He explains that the plague is beyond his control, that it comes from God alone. Still, he promises to pray for Ramses and the people of Egypt so they may be freed from the suffering. With that, the Israelites are finally set free. Led by Moses and supported by Aaron and Joshua, the people begin their journey out of Egypt. Families gather, carrying their belongings and livestock, moving together toward a future they had only dreamed of. The sound of celebration spreads across the land as they leave behind their years of suffering. But the story does not end there. Once the plague is gone and Egypt begins to recover, Ramses' anger returns. Humiliated and filled with resentment, he gathers his army. He refuses to let Moses and his people walk away in peace. Driven by revenge, Ramses sets out to hunt them down, determined to destroy Moses and everyone who follows him. As Moses learns that Pharaoh's army is coming after them, he turns back to God in prayer, asking for salvation for his people. And once again, a miracle unfolds. With the power given to him, Moses raises his staff, and the Red Sea splits open, creating a path for the Israelites to escape. The people move forward, crossing safely through the sea. But Pharaoh's army refuses to stop. They charge into the parted waters, determined to capture them. At that moment, God shows his power once more. As soon as Moses and his followers reach the other side, the sea closes again. Panic spreads through Pharaoh's forces as the waters crash back together. There is no escape. In the end, Pharaoh and his army are swallowed by the sea, their pride leading them to their downfall. With their enemies gone, Moses and the Israelites continue their journey. Guided by God, they head toward the valley of Mount Sinai. There they are given a new purpose. God commands them to bow down and worship him, marking the beginning of a new chapter for the people who were once enslaved. And with that, the story comes to an end. So the moral of the story is never bully babies. Never trust floating baskets. And if someone keeps warning you about God, maybe stop flexing your statues before the sea literally deletes you.